Home Alone. Horror Story 1. My name is Alex, and this is the story of the most terrifying night of my life. It happened months ago when my parents went out of town for a business trip. They left me home alone with some money and instructions to take care of the house and myself. They said they would be back on Sunday night and that I could call them anytime if I needed anything. I thought it would be fun to have the house to myself for a couple of days. I could watch whatever I wanted on TV, play video games, order pizza, and invite some friends over. I was looking forward to a relaxing and enjoyable weekend, but things didn't go as planned. On Friday night, I was watching a horror movie on Netflix when I heard a loud thud outside. It sounded like someone had thrown something at the window. I paused the movie and got up to check. I looked out the window, but I didn't see anything. I thought it was probably a stray cat or a raccoon, so I shrugged it off and resumed the movie. A few minutes later, I heard another thud, this time louder and closer. I jumped and muted the TV. I looked out the window again, and this time I saw a shadowy figure standing in the front yard. He was wearing a hooded jacket and a mask, and he was holding a baseball bat. He was staring right at me. I felt a surge of fear and panic. I didn't know who he was or what he wanted. I grabbed my phone and dialed 911. I told the operator that there was a masked man outside my house and that I was home alone. The operator asked me for my address and told me to stay calm and lock the doors and windows. She said that the police were on their way and that they would be there soon. I hung up the phone and ran to the door. I locked it and checked the other doors and windows. They were all locked. I felt a little safer, but I was still scared. I wondered why the man was there and what he was going to do. I hoped that the police would arrive before he did anything. I went back to the living room and turned on the lights. I didn't want to be in the dark. I sat on the couch and waited for the police. I kept looking at the window, hoping to see the flashing lights of a patrol car, but I didn't see anything. I only saw the man, who was still standing in the yard. He was still holding the bat, and he was still staring at me. He didn't move. He didn't speak. He just stood there, like a statue. He looked like he was waiting for something, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. I felt a chill run down my spine. I felt like I was in a nightmare. I wished that my parents were there. I wished that this was all a joke. I wished that the man would go away, but he didn't. He stayed there, watching me, watching and waiting. And then he smiled. And when the cops arrived, he vanished, and they couldn't find him anywhere. And that's the last time I saw him. Home Alone. Horror Story 2. My name is Amy, and I live alone in a small apartment in the city. I work as a waitress at a diner, and I go to college part-time. I don't have many friends, and I don't have a boyfriend. I like my privacy, and I like my independence. But lately, I've been feeling scared and paranoid. Ever since I started receiving those phone calls, I've been living in fear. I don't know who the caller is or what he wants from me, but I know he's dangerous, and I know he's close. It all started a month ago when I was home by myself. It was a Friday night, and I had just finished watching a movie on Netflix. I was about to go to bed when I heard my phone ring. I looked at the caller ID, and I saw that it was an unknown number. I hesitated, but I decided to answer. Maybe it was someone important, or maybe it was a wrong number. I said hello, and I heard a voice. It was a man's voice, deep and raspy. He said, "Hello, Amy. I've been watching you." I was shocked and confused. I asked him who he was and how he knew my name. He said, "I know everything about you, Amy. I know where you live, where you work, where you study. I know your habits, your hobbies, your secrets. I know you better than anyone, Amy, because I'm your biggest fan." I felt a chill down my spine. I asked him what he wanted from me and why he was calling me. He said, "I want you, Amy. I want to be with you. I want to make you mine. I'm calling you because I want to hear your voice, and I want you to hear mine. I want to talk to you, Amy. I want to tell you how much I love you." I was terrified and disgusted. I told him he was crazy and that he had the wrong number. I told him to leave me alone and that I was going to call the police. He said, "Don't do that, Amy. Don't make me angry. You don't want to see me angry, Amy. You don't want to see what I can do. You don't want to see what I have planned for you." I hung up and I threw my phone across the room. I was shaking and crying. I didn't know what to do. I didn't know who he was or how he knew so much about me. I didn't know if he was serious or if he was just playing a prank. I didn't know if he was watching me or if he was just bluffing. I didn't know if he was far away or if he was nearby. I decided to call the police, and I told them what happened. They said they would trace the call, and they would send someone to check on me. They said they would call me back, and they told me to stay calm and lock the doors and windows. They said it was probably a prank, and that I had nothing to worry about. I did as they said, and I waited for them to call me back. I tried to calm down, and I told myself that it was just a prank. I told myself that it was just a joke, and that it was not real. I told myself that I was safe, and that I was not in danger. But I was wrong. It was not a prank, and it was not a joke. It was real, and I was in danger. And he was closer than I ever imagined. He called me again, and he said, "Hello, Amy, I'm here." I heard a knock on the door, and I screamed. Luckily, I've closed all the doors and windows, and he can't enter my apartment. But he kept banging it. He yelled threats and insults, making me shiver in fear. He said he would break in and hurt me. He said, "I love you and hate you, Amy." He said, "I've been watching you for months, and I knew you were alone. I want you to be mine." But when I heard the siren sound, I felt alive, and they arrested him and warned me to be careful about my surroundings. If the cops hadn't arrived on time, I don't know what might have happened to me. Home Alone. Horror 3. My name is Sam, and this is the story of how I discovered a stalker in my apartment. It happened a few months ago when I was a sophomore in college. I had moved into a small studio apartment near campus, hoping to have some privacy and independence. I liked the place. It was cozy and affordable, and it had everything I needed. But things started to get weird after a few weeks. I noticed that some of my items were not where I left them. My books, my clothes, my laptop, my phone, and my keys were all slightly moved or rearranged. I thought I was just being forgetful, or maybe I had a messy roommate who visited me sometimes. I didn't think much of it, and I didn't bother to ask anyone. Then I noticed other signs of intrusion. I found crumbs on the kitchen counter, stains on the bathroom sink, hairs on the pillow, footprints on the carpet, and fingerprints on the windows. I realized that someone had been in my apartment without my permission, without my knowledge. I felt violated and scared. decided to install security cameras in my apartment to catch the intruder and report them to the police. I bought some cheap cameras online and I set them up in strategic places. I hid them behind books, plants, lamps, and paintings. I made sure they covered every angle and every corner. I connected them to my laptop and I set them to record whenever there was motion. I waited for a few days, hoping to catch the intruder on tape. I checked the footage every night, but I didn't see anything. I thought maybe the intruder had stopped coming, or maybe they had noticed the cameras and avoided them, or there was no intruder. I was about to give up when I saw something that made my blood run cold. It was a Friday night, and I had gone out with some friends. I came back around midnight, and I checked the footage. I saw myself leaving the apartment, locking the door, and walking away. Then I saw something else. I saw a man coming out of the closet. He was wearing a black hoodie and a mask. He had a backpack and a knife. He looked around the apartment, and he smiled. He walked towards the kitchen and opened the fridge. He took out some food and ate it. He drank some water and wiped his mouth. He threw the wrappers and the bottle in the trash. He walked towards the bathroom and used the toilet. He washed his hands and his face. He brushed his teeth and combed his hair. He walked towards the bedroom and lay down on the bed. He turned on the TV and watched a show. He fell asleep. He stayed in the apartment for hours, acting like he owned the place. He did whatever he wanted, without any care or concern. I was horrified and disgusted. I realized that this man had been stalking me for a long time. He had been secretly living in my apartment when I was away. I didn't know who he was or what he wanted. I didn't know how he got in or how he got out. I didn't know how long he had been doing this or how many times he had done this. I didn't know what he was planning to do next or what he was capable of doing. I grabbed my phone and called the police. I told them everything, and I sent them the footage. They said they would be there as soon as possible, and they told me to stay calm and safe, and advised me to lock the apartment and wait outside. They said they would catch the stalker and stop him. I hung up the phone and waited for the police. I hoped that they would arrest him and lock him up. I hoped that they would protect me and save me, but they didn't. They couldn't. Because he was already there. He was in the closet. He had been there all along. He had been watching me. Knowing he was there, I was freaked out to move from my bed, but I had to do this to save myself. So get up and walked casually and managed to reach the door. But suddenly, I heard a thud from my back, and my heart stopped. I quickly opened the door and locked it outside. I waited until the cops arrived and arrested him. It was the most horrifying and disturbing thing that happened in my life. Subscribe for more horror stories like this. Like this video if your heartbeat raised while watching this video. Comment your experience below. See you in next Haunt Havexus.